Another way to animate the camera is to use the Unified Camera tool, something we just touched on a little bit when we changed to a custom camera view. So to follow along, go to Working Files and go to After Effects Projects and open up 18.03 Animation Tool. So our goal again is to navigate through this space, but we're going to use a different tool. We're going to use the Unified Camera tool up here. So the first order of business is to add a camera. So right click down here and go New Camera. And we'll take the 2-node 50mm right there, and we'll uncheck Enable Depth of Field and click OK. So the first order of business here is to get separate dimensions. So we're going to separate those dimensions by pressing P for position and right-clicking on this and going Separate or Separate Dimensions. There we go. I'm also going to open up the point of interest, so I'll press Shift-A, the equivalent of anchor, to show the point of interest. And now we're ready to start animating this thing. It's always good, though, to work in two views again when you work with the camera. So go over here and select two views horizontal. At least that's what I like to do, horizontal. This guy on the left is probably zoomed in a little bit much, so let's zoom out a bit by going Control or Command hyphen. There you go. And click on the camera so you can see it. Spacebar, Hand tool. There we are, ready to go. So the Unified Camera tool is over here. You click on that little drop-down arrow. You see there are 4 tools. There's the Unified tool and then 3 tools within it, basically. Orbit kind of spins things around. Track XY tracks in the XY plane, not the XZ plane, but the XY plane here, the flat plane that we're looking at. And track Z goes in or out like that. So we just take the Unified Camera tool and work with that, because if you have a 3-button mouse, it's a breeze to work with this guy inside the comp panel. So I'm going to turn on keyframes for just the X, Y, and Z positions, not the point of interest, because the point of interest behaves kind of strangely when you use the Unified Camera tool. It sort of stops a little ways into the comp. It just sort of finds the end, or what it believes is the end, and stops, and so you can't really move forward at that point. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take the point of interest past the point where we're going to go and kind of get things set up that way. So I'm going to switch to the selection tool by pressing V to do that. I'm going to zoom out in the sky a little bit by going Control hyphen a couple times, and our boy is right there. 1, 2, 3. That's the third boy there. So I'm going to take my selection tool and take the point of interest and just drag it past him, just to kind of get that all ready to go here like that, because it will create problems as we move through the comp panel with the Unified Camera tool. Okay, let's go on into the comp panel now and switch back to the Unified Camera tool. You can just click up here and press C to turn on the camera tool. There it is. And you get that little film camera there. What we're going to do is we're going to turn it into one of those 3 tools. And the way you do that is with a 3-button mouse. If you don't have a 3-button mouse, you got to select these guys individually. But the left button is the Orbit tool. Lets you orbit around like this, change all kinds of things. It's really quite amazing. Watch out, it's pretty wild. So you got to be kind of careful how you do this. I'll do Control or Command Z to undo that. The scroll wheel, or the middle there, click that down, and you get the XY plane, the plane that we see in front of us. You get to move that around. Literally, you drag it in the direction that you want it to go, like that. And the right mouse button is the Z track, in or out, like that. Out and then in, like so. So our first order of business is to go in. So let me do Control or Command Z to undo those things we just did there. And now let's sort of track in. So I want to make keyframes at the beginning, which I already did. Let's move in a little bit like this. And now we'll start moving toward the boy in the middle. So I'll right-click, and that gets the Z track, and we'll move into that boy. There you go, great. Maybe we want to move a little bit to the right, so I hold down the scroll wheel and slide him over. Just pull him over like that. There you go. Okay, and that works. He zoomed out like that for a moment because I had my finger on the scroll wheel for a moment after I let go of it. So if you use the scroll wheel, you can zoom in and out too. That's another way to zoom in and out here on the comp panel. All right, now I want to go to the next boy, so I go a little bit forward in time here. I want to click on the right mouse button and go toward him. There we go. And click on the scroll wheel and slide over, pull him over, essentially. Let's go a little bit farther forward now. I'll go past him. Right mouse button, go past him. There you go. It's kind of intuitive here to work inside the comp panel. You can see what you're doing here, basically. Some people say when you use this, you really shouldn't be working in the active camera view, but there's really no other way you can do it. You can't use the active camera tool over here. It just won't work. It gets a little bing, bing. It just won't let you spin things around. So you got to work over here anyways. Okay, now we got our point of interest right about there, and that's really the next thing I want to work on, but I want to go a little bit farther forward here. So I'll go over here, and we'll go a little bit farther forward with the right mouse button, Z tracking there. Now we're running into the point of interest, which will create problems if we keep on going forward. All right, let's just see how things worked out there. Let's pull this guy back to the beginning and watch things here. There we go, moving right along, moving right along. There you go, and past this young man. And now what we can do is we can also just animate the point of interest, which I did in the previous lesson, so I won't go through that here. And if you want to go, let's say, to this point right there, for example, and let's say if you want to pick up the camera or you want to pick it up here a little bit, have it a little bit higher, You can just keyframe the Y position at this point, so you don't need to worry about changing the X and Z. Just change the Y position. So you just lift this guy up, for example, and pull that up. That'll just add a keyframe for Y there without affecting the other two. So let's just see how that works there. He goes along, and then he goes up in space like that. Now if you want to bring him back down again, which happens automatically because that's where the camera ended up before, then you can do that. And at the end here, if you go past him, if you want to lift up this position, this Y value there, just make sure you're on top of it. And you can lift up that Y value as well. Here we go, like that, however you want to do it. Then if you want to do the little twisting and turning around, that's when you use the point of interest here to turn things around. So that's how you use the Unified Camera tool. Now, from my point of view, you don't use one or the other, the Unified Camera tool or the Selection tool. You use them both. And you can watch your progress in both these windows, the top view and the active camera. And then you might want to switch sometimes to a side view. But nevertheless, the Unified Camera tool and the Selection tool working in concert with separate dimensions is a pretty good way, I think, to animate the camera.